This was
Mhm.
the second and is the second largest study in the United States from California, right around the corner from y'all. Kaiser
Mhm.
Permanente,
Mhm.
absolutely. But here it was in 2014, no updates.
Mhm.
That's when I said, okay, we're going to take this to another level. That's
Mhm.
where the research came in for me.
Welcome to Healing Conversations podcast.
Podcast.
Yes. Hello, 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 everyone. Welcome back to Healing Conversations podcast.
Podcast.
As you know, this is our space. So we come together and we talk all things healing, all things expansion, all things growth. And we bring real life where we are into this space and we talk through it and we give you a living live example of what that looks like by being the example of healing and not try to preach or teach, but show you through our lived experience. And as I always say, it's the ripple effect. You see one, it ripples out to other, and we support the collective on their healing journey by being the change that they want to see.
Yes, and
I
this
love
is a
that.
community conversation. This is a dialogue. So make sure you are getting in the comments. You're hitting us on Instagram at Raymel Bentley, at VZ Spaces, and letting us know how are these tips helping you? How are these conversations enriching you, educating you? I know he said we're not here to teach, but we got a teacher here today.
Mhm.
Yes,
She's gonna drop some knowledge.
yes.
And we're so grateful to have this for you all today. We're going to be having a conversation about ACEs. If you don't know what that is, that means adverse childhood experiences. And we have I will say, an expert. I don't know if she
The
considers
expert.
herself. Oh, the expert. Listen, correct.
Get it right. Get it
The
right.
experts, especially in our sphere of influence. She has really brought this to the forefront and supported a lot of us with expanding our healing journey. So today we have Dr. Tori.
I
We're
am
so
honored.
grateful to be
I
here. Yes, go ahead and
am
introduce
honored.
yourself.
My name is
Yes.
Dr. Tori McDonald Williams. This whole ACEs, I want to say ministry, started as someone who was trying to identify herself at the age of 10 and 11. There were a lot of things that were going on in life, personally, just growing up, and I couldn't put a name to it. And so, being a first generation high school graduate, my parents did not graduate at all. 14, 15, found each other, thought they were in love, had me, and here I am. So my wounds go all the way back. And I went on a journey to find myself. And that's how I discovered ACEs, seriously. I have to give a huge shout out to Dr. Nadine Burke Harris. It was her. When
Mm.
she did that TED Talk in 2014, I was actually in pursuit of my doctorate degree. And my, excuse me, my dissertation coach said, when you're doing your dissertation topic, you need to do your dissertation topic on something that you want to continue to pursue or something that, you have to find your niche. Because I was just happy. Again, the first generation person, not just to graduate from high school, but to
Mhm.
college and then to go back to get their doctorate degree. I'm
Mhm.
listening to people talk about what they want. And I'm like, no, well, adverse childhood experience is actually medical. So there really isn't no one that has hit it from an educational standpoint besides myself until
Mm.
now.
Hmm.
Because what I am doing is helping others add that ACEs to their pursuit of their bachelor's, master's, and doctorate degrees. And now
Mm.
more people are gaining interest in exactly what ACEs are. When we do
Hmm.
dissertations and we do these things, they're in medical form, they're in
Mm.
educational form. So they're in their um, ProQuest, they're in their databases. They're not really out for the public because there's so many of us going back to school. And so for me, in the educational standpoint, I was already educating, I was already teaching, I was already administrator, I was already seeing these things. And as a special education administrator, you guys, I will let you know it's the acronyms. So PTSD,
Mm-hmm.
dyslexia, behavior disorders, emotional disorder, all of this, eating disorder, like all of this are special education issues. And
Mm-hmm.
so me being a special education administrator, I noticed it. I actually really loved being in the behavior intervention room because they tell everything. The emotional disturbed room, these are actually acronyms under the special education dialect and dialogue. So that's how I got interested in ACEs because I saw that there were students that were actually labeled in special education that didn't want to be labeled at all. So that's when I started digging. Autism, severe, all the way from severe, profound to gifted and talented. Gifted and talented students, you guys, honestly cannot function in a normal education classroom because they're gifted and talented, which makes them special education. But there's something always added to them. So you have to think about it. Someone that's dyslexic could also be gifted and talented, or those with ADHD could actually be gifted and talented. So here, the psychology part of it, my undergrad is in psychology. I started digging. I like research. And
Yeah.
again, me having to be the first, I had to prove myself to a lot of people, and you prove yourself by providing that data. So that's what I got my undergrad degree in, not psychology for what I don't want. No, y'all could keep the therapy. Y'all could keep that. Y'all can keep the counseling. I want to provide that research and I want to provide that data. So I went to get my undergrad degree in psychology for the data aspect of it. But if you know anything about psychology, that's not good enough at all. You can't get nothing with a psychology degree at all. That's how I got into teaching. So I wanted to make sure you all know that it wasn't just me, just no, I actually, the lived experiences I went through encouraged me to go back to school to produce more. Because you can retire as a teacher. However, as the years kept going, more and more things started happening, and I started seeing other things, which is the reason why I went in pursuit for my doctorate degree. So when I discovered ACEs, I noticed that it was something that was produced in 1998. It was the second largest study by Kaiser Permanente, Andrew Felitti, and Dr. Anda. Dr. Vincent Felitti and Dr. Robert Anda. I stand corrected. This was the second and is the second largest study in the United States from California, right around the corner from y'all. Kaiser Permanente, absolutely. But here it was in 2014, no updates. That's when I said, okay, we're going to take this to another level. That's where the research came in for me. I did a study. I did a study at the school that I was at. And during that time, I will share with you guys, the school is in Chicago. You all know the things that they say about Chicago. Chicago has the third largest school district in the United States. And the crime rate is high, attendance is bad, suspension is what it is, all of the things that they say. But I was at a school where I saw different. These kids wanted to come to school because there were some things going on. It was like school is a safe place. And I don't think people know how safe of a place it is
Yeah.
if the homes aren't safe. So that's how it started. And I said, let me see, because I'm seeing the schools, kick kids out of school for being tardy, or kids come to school and grandmother passes away and the teacher's closing the door on them because they don't have a pencil. That doesn't make sense to me. So that's when I started getting involved and getting to the studies. I started saying, well, if I can do something in regards to extracurricular activity, then we can see an increase in things and a decrease in others. So, like an increase in attendance and a decrease in suspensions. And that's what happened. So, we started linking up how these kids started coming to school more. The kids that were in special education, I jailed them and put them in extracurricular activity. So, I have pictures of my behavior disorder boys that was banging, gang banging, and fighting that became quarterbacks and football players.
Mm.
Mm.
So we gave them something to do. We got
Yeah.
them involved. We gave them something to do, and it was so fun. But what was going up was the attendance rate, and what was going down was the suspension rate. And
Mm.
Mm.
that was my study. And I did that based on the ACEs test scores. So
Mm.
I like a whole certified study. It's out there.
Yeah.
I did it at this was a school that I was working at that time,
Mm-hmm.
and it increased numbers. I mean, it was great. Like I started getting, recognition in the area for what I was doing and things and all that wonderful stuff. It was great. And then COVID happened. And
Mm.
so when COVID happened, I took a leap of faith, and that's when I relocated to Dallas. Well, when I moved to Dallas, it was great, but they kept trying to put Dr. Tori back in the classroom. And
Mm.
I thought that that was weird because here I am a licensed certified administrator with years, not of just education, but teaching experience.
Mm-hmm.
But if you know the history of Texas, Texas has been discriminatory even when they let go of, and we got Black History. Remember,
Mm-hmm.
it took Texas a few
Extra
years
couple
to come
years.
back to the fold. And
Mm-hmm.
so I noticed what was interesting is at that time when I moved down here, 45 was still in office. So the blatant disrespect was out of control out here.
Mm.
And let's be clear, I'm from Chicago. So I was like, what? So when you
Mm.
think back, the Emmett Till, when he
Mm.
didn't know about whistling, he was from Chicago. Or
Mm-hmm.
right now, the altercations between the mayor of Chicago and 47, it's like,
Mm-hmm.
no shade, we got a different attitude in Chicago.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
I wasn't going to let anyone dim my light. And I was in three different school districts down here, and systemic racism is real.
Mm.
So I kind of got a whiff of it. Like I said, I was in three different school districts. I moved in 2020. So 21, I was in a different school district, and this has never happened. In 22, I was in a different school district. And in 23, after letting that school district know, because they purposely hired a whole bunch of African Americans. And from what I found out, that was a tradition. They would hire us and they would let go of people. And this time when they hired, it was seven of us, and we was like, "No, we're not taking that. We're not honoring that."
Mm.
So we were getting ready to file a lawsuit. And the best news that I received was great. Everything that I brought up in my dissertation in regards to what they need to address bullying, they need to address systemic racism, they needed to address mass shootings, they needed to address all of the updates that they updated on the CDC website in 2023 were in
Mm-hmm.
my dissertation as recommendations.
Mm.
And that's when I took a leap of faith. And here I am, 3 years later, having
Mm.
this conversation. I started with the podcast because quiet is kept, and I'm sharing this with you guys. The podcast is actually data too.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So when you
Yeah.
think about it, those are officially stories of people sharing their adverse
Mm-hmm.
childhood experiences and
Can
their
you share
stories.
the title of your podcast?
It's
And
called Be Victorious Podcast. Be Victorious
okay.
with Dr. Tori Williams.
Yes. And you
And
Mhm.
just
it
had
is
like
been
100 episodes, 100
yes, yes, yes,
stories.
yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes, 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 yes. And the
Mm-hmm.
way that the Lord set it up, I am faith-based, you guys. Episode 100 is my brother.
Mm.
And the story is this: when because I'm a professor, I am. When I'm in places and they meet Dr. Tori, it's like, oh my God, Dr. Tori, first generation high school grad, da 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 da. But there's a story behind that.
Mhm.
And so my brother finally got a chance to share what his adverse childhood experiences were based off of him learning about adverse childhood experiences from me.
Mm.
So that was the
Mm.
full circle moment for me because I started saying, I know I'm not alone. I know I'm not going through this. I know that I am not the only one that have experienced this as a child. And then they started
Mhm.
coming. and I
Yeah.
started getting people. And I
Yeah.
will say by the time for the, I will share for the first ACEs awareness conference, it put a huge highlight to where cycle breakers, we the term has always been out there. I was calling them superheroes for the first conference. We're calling them cycle breakers. This is what this is. We're breaking generational cycles.
Mm-hmm.
We are breaking generational curses. And then
Yeah.
that's when it increased. And more people started volunteering and telling their stories. They did not hide. They did not say, nope, this didn't happen. They like, nope, I was sexually abused when I was growing. And this is what happened. My relationships were horrible as I got older. Or no, this is what happened to me when I was younger. And now my back hurts or my neck hurts or this. And all of
Mm-hmm.
this is related to adverse childhood experiences. So that's the reason
Yes.
why it's a big deal now because it's actually been out there. It just hasn't been in the right community, if that makes
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yes. And the conversation is a lot
sense. Mhm.
louder and it's a lot more embraced. Like, for instance, we have had Leah Abraham on the podcast. She's a wonderful guest, a beautiful part of our community. And she holds a wonderful space for
It does.
people to talk about their childhood traumas. And I think more people who, like you're saying, these cycle breakers, they
Mhm.
have gone through these experiences, decided they didn't want to be a hurt person who hurt people and wanted to be a hurt person who healed to help others heal. And so
Yep.
now there are more of these people rising up. So more of the populace can come forward and say, yes, this
Yep.
happened to me, and I can recognize how it impacted me. And I'm grateful that I have this space and this opportunity. There is a large collective healing happening. So thank you for
It's
your
happening.
contribution to this. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so excited because
Yes.
that is the name of my book. It's called It's Time to Talk
Mm,
About Aces. I had
yes.
to
Mm-hmm.
do that because I don't think anybody would have understood my story if you don't understand aces.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's more of a reference. So
Mm,
that's why it's been used in the educational platforms, or there are schools and universities, and I'm even doing barbershops and beauty salons um, because they're the ones when as soon as you think about
mhm.
it, you go to the beauty salon, you sit down and you say, how you doing? You telling everything.
All the
Mm-hmm.
business.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
And so
not
that,
licensed for therapy, but they be giving
yeah,
it.
and they tell it. And so I did a training in Baltimore with the police department, and he
Mm,
was dead serious, um, saying, "Oh, nope, we are." Um, my phone is ringing. I'm so sorry, you guys. Can you hear it? Okay, good.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I tried to turn it off, and it didn't turn on. And I thought I had my phone on the maps, so I apologize.
it's all good.
So when I went to Baltimore, and was sharing about adverse childhood experiences, he asked what I do a training for the new um, recruits for the police department. And I
Mm,
asked him, I was like, I want to know, I'm interested, because, there's issues with police and, community violence has increased tremendously. What's up? And he was like, no, they need to know what this is. They need to know that abuse is real, neglect is real, household
mhm.
dysfunction is the cause that we receive. I was like, exactly. Like, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh. Yeah. So you want this
Yes.
training? And
Mm-hmm.
here we are. That
Mm,
this is it. This is what we have to have a discussion about. Just understanding and clarity will help so many people with
yes.
awareness. So yes,
Yes.
this is medically it's an issue. It's a problem. We know
Mm-hmm.
that. But how many people are really educated on it? So
Not
that's what
many.
happened. I put less it's time to talk about ACEs, and I feel like it shifted. We talking about it for real. Like we are talking
Mm-hmm.
about it,
Mm-hmm. And it
Yes.
which makes
needs
it
to
easier.
be.
We have to. Well, and I will also say I have been a lot more vocal. I'll give you an example. In our community, in the African American community, we don't talk about nothing. We keep everything in. What goes in the house stays in the house. That has
Mm-hmm.
always been the tradition. I will share with you guys every month I've had someone that I know unalive themselves. And every now and again, I get somebody say, well, did you talk to the family about saying something? That's the problem, y'all. If we just sit here and say, well, they're no longer with us, and you just seen them yesterday, they're going to think something. If somebody is shot, they're going, girl, he got shot. Oh, it was a car accident. When you
Mm-hmm.
say, don't say anything,
Mm-hmm.
you're telling exactly what happened. So you
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
might as well say it. Who are we
Right.
protecting at this point? Because
Right.
if we're keeping this in, that's not helping, that's hurting.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to I keep saying you have to understand. Yeah, I remember I teach now.
Mm-hmm.
That is the reason why the ACEs education is going pretty fast because
Mm-hmm.
people are learning and people want to learn more because they see how much learning is actually helping in regards to the healing process.
Yes.
That
You have
Yes.
education,
awareness.
you have to put it in there. If you don't know that things are happening, like I just think that it's interesting, like how all of this is playing a role in everything that is happening in today's society right now. It's all
Mhm.
ACEs. I
Yes.
went
Mm-hmm.
when I first started saying, "Oh, if you have an ACE score of 4, then you have a high ACE score." And that's how I was able to meet the MIC and able to meet the people that had scores. And now it's, well, 1 in 3 have an ACE score. Okay, well, if you look to your left, you look to your right, we have an ACE score.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
And now it is, I have more data out there. I am now at conferences and working with mental health professionals. And, now people want more and more data because they know that I'm data driven. They're like, well, can you help me? Well, sure. And now
Mm-hmm.
it's, 50% of African American men all have aces. That means that's half
Mhm.
the room. No, they don't have aces. They have a high ace score. So it's
Mm-hmm.
like, you guys, we need to start having this conversation more. It's the awareness. We have to quit
Yes.
saying what's not okay and
Mhm.
know that this needs to be addressed because we can save lives through ACEs education.
Yes.
And you know what I love? I love that because I know for me, I didn't start this journey of self-development healing until 2019.
Right.
Prior to that, I was amongst the crowd, numbing, running, avoiding, not wanting to deal with. And it's, I like to say a combination of two. I didn't know what I didn't know, but then I didn't want to know what
Right.
I didn't know. So that was where it was easier to be in crowds and surroundings who were into the drama, into the mess, into their hurt. And I had a season where I was just bleeding my pain onto others. And
Right.
I didn't even know what that word trauma was until I started to be in different environments because I just thought that was life. That's how you
Right.
grew up. That's how people grew up. That's what they dealt with growing up. So I'm a part of the in crowd. But I didn't
Mhm.
realize that there was an effect that that childhood experience had on me. And I didn't
Right.
realize how much of those wounds that I carry were not only mine, but they were from my parents. So
Mhm.
they bled their non-healed things onto me. And I've always had this like positive, uplifting attitude, just even as a child, because that's just what brought me joy is to make people feel happy and feel good.
Right.
But for me, like as I've done the work, I realized that it wasn't organic and authentic. It was a
Mhm.
mask that I wore because if I showed you, like how you were saying earlier, don't talk about it, don't tell anyone. If I told you or showed you really what was happening, it came with the consequence of even though those who were hurting me will be taken away, I'd rather deal with them hurting me because at least I knew that they were there.
Right.
So a lot of times that's where, like, as you were saying, the don't talk about it, keep it in the house, because I knew that it came with repercussions. And then I remember there was a time where there was like my mother and her husband, they were getting into a physical altercation, and I wanted to call the police. Like I literally was like threatened, I'm gonna call the police, I'm gonna call the police. But then in my heart, in my mind, I'm like, if I call the police, then they're gonna see what's happening. Everything's gonna be exposed. And then I'm gonna be the reason why I broke up the family. So I don't want that pressure. I don't want that responsibility on me. So I did
Mhm.
what? Kept it quiet, kept it in the house, but still was stuck in a dysfunction. And
Mm.
even like I would only talk to people who I knew they had similar experiences, meaning I knew that their parents fought. I knew that they were getting abused. So then we could trauma bond. But
Exactly.
I didn't even know that was the word of it. I just knew we
Exactly.
connect, we relate, and we got something to talk about because I
Mhm.
can't talk about it to them. So I just love that what I hear from you, Dr. Tori, is your mission is just to bring this awareness to as many souls that are ready to not only listen but put in the work.
Yep.
Because
Mhm.
that's what it needs to be done. Like the work has to be done.
Absolutely.
And we're in a world that is traumatized. And we're in a time where people's trauma is coming up for them.
Hmm.
And I like to say, when you think of the spiritual realm and essence of it, there's a big shift happening.
Yep.
So we can't move forward if we're still holding on to all of that trauma, all of the aces that we are just carrying. We
Mhm.
can't be led, we can't move, we stay stuck, and we're not really living to our highest, fullest potential. So I love that you are like, lighten the load.
Yes.
Lighten the load, don't carry that weight. Let it
Yes.
go.
Mhm.
But do you see how you just use the words in the right context? Not to say that you haven't previously, but
Mm-hmm.
you did. Now,
Mm-hmm.
people don't know what trauma bonding is.
Mm.
But when you gather around people with the same issues and concerns as trauma bonding, people don't
Mm-hmm.
even know that. And that is the awareness that we're trying to bring.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We have to know. You guys stayed in a relationship knowing, I mean, when I mean red flags, I mean just waving hello and hi. And
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
stayed because we were raised to what goes in the house stays in the house, or not to
Mhm.
say anything. This not saying anything, yeah, that's normalized too.
Or just
Don't
deal with it.
I don't want another person to unalive themselves. I don't. So I have to say something. And